Yo, what happens when a Saiyan prince hits a quantum glitch? Total multiverse chaos, baby. Let's dive in.
Inside Capsule Corporation, base form Vegeta pushes the gravity chamber far beyond its mortal limits, chasing a power that refuses to be contained. Every drop of sweat hits the metal floor like a bullet. The sheer intensity of his ki begins to warp the very air. But the earthly machinery simply cannot handle the pressure of a Saiyan's relentless pride. Warning sirens scream as the core overloads.
Is that all you've got? Don't you dare break on me yet!
A microscopic tear in reality forms. Not just an explosion, but a localized black hole hungering for raw energy. The gravity reverses, ripping the heavy floor panels into the void. The chamber becomes a chaotic vortex of shattered steel and light. Caught off guard, the prince digs his boots into the tearing floorboards, fighting an impossible cosmic current pulling him away. Caught off guard, the prince digs his boots into the tearing floorboards, fighting an impossible cosmic current pulling him away. With a deafening crunch of reality, the vortex consumes him, leaving behind nothing but a destroyed, silent training room. Tossed through the blinding chaos of the quantum tunnel, Vegeta falls endlessly through the spaces between universes, unable to stop. He fires a desperate ki blast, but the energy is instantly absorbed by the multidimensional walls, rendering his attacks completely useless. Just as the pressure threatens to crush his bones, a blinding white exit appears, pulling him toward a completely foreign reality. Meanwhile, under the serene skies of the Valley of the End, the atmosphere is utterly calm. No one suspects the impending doom. Without warning, the heavens literally shatter like fragile glass. A jagged dimensional rift rips across the perfect blue sky. Violent purple lightning arcs down, striking the ancient statues of Hashirama and Madara, heralding an arrival of unimaginable scale. From the center of the bleeding sky, a blazing golden meteor plummets toward the earth with terrifying, unstoppable momentum. Cloaked in atmospheric fire, base form Vegeta crosses his arms, bracing for an impact that will rewrite the history of this world. The fiery projectile hurtles directly toward the dense, ancient forest bordering the valley, moving way too fast to be intercepted. Slicing through the clouds in a perfect diagonal descent, the Prince of all Saiyans brings the wrath of the stars with him. He strikes the earth. For a split second, time seems to freeze before the ground violently ripples like a disturbed ocean. A colossal shockwave erupts outward, uprooting century-old trees and obliterating everything in its path with pure, unadulterated kinetic force. A massive mushroom cloud of dust and debris towers over the Valley of the End, casting a dark, ominous shadow. As the devastating dust storm slowly begins to settle, a lone, menacing silhouette stands perfectly still at the center of the destruction. White armored boots step heavily onto the scorched, cracked earth, crushing the remaining embers with absolute authority.
What is this dump? The gravity here is an absolute joke.
Drawn by the apocalyptic tremor, Team 7 races through the canopy, expecting an enemy invasion but finding something far worse. They halt at the crater's jagged edge. Below them lies a level of devastation that defies all known ninja arts. The copy ninja instinctively extends his senses, probing the thick smoke for a familiar energy signature, finding absolutely nothing. At the epicenter stands a lone warrior. He doesn't radiate chakra, yet the air around him feels impossibly heavy. Vegeta senses their pathetic attempts to measure him. To a Saiyan prince, their energy is barely a whisper in the wind. Naruto bristles at the stranger's sheer arrogance, his impulsive nature screaming at him to attack this unknown threat immediately. But it is Sasuke who feels the insult deepest. The Uchiha pride cannot tolerate being looked down upon by anyone. The crimson gaze of the Sharingan awakens, analyzing the stranger, desperate to decode a power that shouldn't exist. Without waiting for orders, Sasuke drops into a lethal stance, completely consumed by the need to prove his superiority.
You think you can just crash into our territory and look down on us? Big mistake!
Vegeta merely smirks. To him, this isn't an ambush, it's an invitation to crush a bug that dared to speak. Propelled by fury and pride, the young Uchiha launches himself into the abyss, his speed shattering the rocky cliffside. Sasuke strikes with flawless precision, his Sharingan tracking every possible counterattack, ready to deliver a lethal blow. He pours every ounce of his speed and strength into the blade, certain that this velocity cannot be evaded. But the prince doesn't evade. With a casual flick of his wrist, he catches the blade perfectly between two fingers. The kinetic force of the sudden stop creates a massive shockwave, clearing the crater of smoke in an instant. Sasuke pushes with everything he has, his muscles screaming, but the blade doesn't move a single millimeter. A microscopic flex of Saiyan muscle is all it takes. The hardened steel shatters like fragile glass. The amusement fades from Vegeta's eyes, replaced instantly by the chilling boredom of a predator examining a broken toy. Before the Sharingan can even register the movement, a casual backhand strikes with the force of a falling meteor. Sasuke is sent flying backward, his body skipping across the jagged rocks like a skipped stone on a violent river. He violently impacts the crater wall, the solid stone fracturing into a massive spiderweb under the sheer transferred force. Up on the ridge, Naruto screams in horror, his protective instincts overriding any sense of fear or logic. But Kakashi holds him back, his visible eye wide with terror. The Jonin realizes immediately, engaging this monster means certain death.
Is this fragile little trick what you call power? You're barely worth the dust on my boots, kid!
The sheer magnitude of Vegeta's lingering energy acts like a massive cosmic flare, piercing through the fragile dimensional veil of this world. Drawn by that immense power, Kaido's automated network responds instantly. The heavens above the crater violently tear open once again. A mechanical plague of multidimensional crystal beasts pours from the void, a parasitic swarm engineered to harvest extreme energy signatures. Kakashi looks up, his tactical mind immediately overwhelmed. This isn't a coordinated ninja strike, it is an absolute extinction event. The crystalline swarm freefalls into the abyss, locking their sensory nodes onto the life forces trapped within the blasted crater. While the shinobi freeze in terror, the Saiyan prince merely clicks his tongue, annoyed by the arrival of such pathetic pests. The beasts slam into the bedrock, instantly rebounding with terrifying agility, their crystalline bodies hungry for raw energy. Naruto leaps to protect his battered rival, desperately throwing up his hands to summon a defensive wall of shadow clones. Broken and bleeding, Sasuke refuses to surrender, his Sharingan burning with the fierce, unyielding pride of the Uchiha. Before they can even strategize, the swarm targets the strongest chakra source. Three beasts lunge mercilessly at Kakashi. The Jonin attempts a desperate counterattack, but their speed is overwhelming. Claws sink deep into his shoulder, breaking his seal. It's not just a physical attack. The horrific creatures act as living vacuums, violently ripping the chakra straight from his network. In mere seconds, the elite ninja is completely drained, collapsing to the dirt, utterly powerless against the multidimensional invaders.
Yo, this is brutal. The squad's getting wiped. Think Vegeta's gonna save them, or just bounce? Drop a comment right now.
Refusing to back down, Naruto unleashes his shadow clones, charging headfirst into the terrifying swarm in a desperate bid for survival. But physical attacks are useless. The beasts shred through the clones like paper, absorbing their chakra instantly upon contact. Pushing his broken body beyond its limits, Sasuke unleashes a massive fireball, hoping pure elemental destruction will incinerate the threat. The nightmare worsens. A massive beast simply opens its jaws, swallowing the raging inferno whole, feeding off the lethal attack. It doesn't just absorb, it reflects the raw kinetic force back. Sasuke is crushed against the wall, utterly defenseless. Their chakra depleted, their attacks rendered completely useless, the two prodigies are hopelessly overwhelmed by the sheer, crushing numbers. Pinned to the jagged rocks, Sasuke stares death in the face, his immense pride shattered by a completely insurmountable enemy. Naruto is slammed violently into the dirt, his arms pinned, completely trapped. The light of hope begins to fade rapidly. The faceless horrors prepare to feed, their crystalline jaws unhinging to drain the very life force from the young warriors. A few yards away, Kakashi reaches out a trembling hand, utterly powerless to save his students before slipping into unconsciousness. In his final, desperate moment, Naruto turns his gaze toward the only being capable of stopping this absolute massacre. But the white boots remain perfectly still. To the monsters, he is a god, to the boys, he is a statue. Vegeta glances over his shoulder, his eyes utterly devoid of pity. He feels absolutely no obligation to play the savior.
If you're too weak to survive some crystal bugs, then just die quietly.
With chilling finality, he turns his back. The prince of all Saiyans prepares to leave them to their pathetic, miserable fate. Watching the arrogant warrior walk away, Sasuke's Sharingan flares. It isn't fear of death he feels, but absolute, venomous humiliation. He ascends towards the clouds, fully intending to abandon this broken world, leaving the proud shinobi to be eaten alive. The Saiyan prince rises above the slaughter, fully prepared to leave this pathetic, broken dimension to its inevitable doom. But a few foolish creatures break off from the swarm, hungering for the massive energy signature attempting to leave their airspace. Without even breaking his gaze, Vegeta unleashes a casual barrage of basic ki blasts, swatting them away like absolute trash. The pure kinetic force of his energy instantly vaporizes the interceptors, turning the terrifying predators into harmless falling glass. Down in the pit, the execution is at hand. Sasuke is pinned, completely drained of chakra, staring straight into the abyss. In a fraction of a second, Naruto breaks free, throwing his own body directly into the path of the lethal strike. He acts as a human shield. It's a foolish, irrational, utterly reckless move to save a rival who can't even stand. High above, the Saiyan prince stops. Something in that desperate, suicidal act of protection catches his cold eye. Seeing that blonde kid throw his life away, glaring death in the face with such irrational, infuriating stubbornness. It strikes a hidden nerve. For a split second, Vegeta sees the exact same reckless pride that his own son possesses. Logic dictates he leave. But Saiyan pride refuses to let a warrior with that kind of fire die like a cornered rat. Descending at supersonic speed, Vegeta extends 2 fingers, compressing a lethal amount of pure energy into a single, microscopic point. A surgical beam of golden light pierces the gloom, completely vaporizing the executioner's skull a millimeter before it strikes. The resulting shockwave is far from gentle, brutally blowing both bruised ninjas across the jagged rocks, away from the immediate threat. Vegeta lands with earth-shattering authority, placing himself directly between the bruised teenagers and the relentless, creeping swarm. But he isn't here to play the savior. He glares down at them, his eyes dripping with absolute, unfiltered disgust.
Get on your feet, you pathetic trash! A true warrior never begs for a quick death on his back.
The brutal insult pierces deeper than any physical blade. Sasuke's Sharingan flares wildly, his Uchiha pride refusing to accept such profound humiliation. Driven by the exact same stubborn fire, Naruto screams, forcing his completely broken body off the dirt by sheer willpower alone. But the nightmare isn't over. The crystal swarm regroups, a relentless wave of hunger crawling forward to finish the job. Shockingly, Vegeta steps aside. He crosses his arms, offering absolutely zero protection, leaving the battered teenagers completely exposed to the swarm. The brutal reality sets in. There is no rescue. There is no backup. They are completely alone on the edge of oblivion.
Forget your little tricks! Force it out! Burn your very life force if you have to, or die as trash!
Pushed beyond the absolute breaking point, driven by humiliation and the primal fear of death, they scream, forcing their drained bodies to mutate. Their traditional chakra networks rupture, violently synchronizing with the raw, untamed natural energy of the world itself. Naruto erupts first. A chaotic, golden-orange aura of hybrid energy explodes outward, tearing the ground apart beneath his feet. Sasuke follows instantly. A jagged, lightning-infused aura of crimson and violet shatters the air, matching the brutal intensity of his rival. United by absolute desperation, they thrust their hands forward, unleashing a catastrophic, spiraling beam of pure, untamed hybrid energy. The swarm tries to absorb it, but the mutation is too chaotic, too volatile. The invaders are instantly vaporized into absolutely nothing. Standing amidst the smoke and destruction, Vegeta watches them panting. A terrifying, deeply satisfied smirk creeps across the prince's face.
Yo, Sasuke's fierce energy or Vegeta's massive ego? Who's gonna ignite first? Drop your votes below.
Following the residual multidimensional energy, the unlikely squad ventures deep into the freezing, hostile territory of the Land of Iron. Despite their severe physical exhaustion, the young ninjas push through the blinding blizzard, desperate to end Kaido's mechanical nightmare. Kakashi tracks the unnatural energy signature. The closer they get, the more the natural environment feels corrupted by alien technology. Through the clearing storm, Kaido's horrific lair reveals itself, a parasitic mechanical fortress bleeding purple energy into the sacred mountains. The main entrance is heavily fortified. Evolved crystal guards patrol the perimeter, completely locking down any direct path forward. Kakashi immediately shifts into stealth mode. He drops behind a snowbank, signaling the exhausted team to halt and stay hidden. Naruto and Sasuke comply instantly, their bodies running on absolute fumes. A direct confrontation right now would be suicidal. But to a Saiyan prince, stealth is just an excuse for the weak. Vegeta lands heavily, completely ignoring the cover. Kakashi panics, desperately trying to pull the arrogant warrior down before the fortress's sensors lock onto his massive energy. Vegeta merely swats the Jonin's hand away like a bothersome insect, utterly insulted by the very concept of hiding.
The perimeter is heavily guarded. We need to infiltrate silently through the blind spots on the western ridge.
Vegeta ignores him completely. Marching straight out of the tree line, he deliberately steps right into the open crosshairs. Naruto watches in sheer disbelief. The concept of subtlety simply does not exist in the vocabulary of a Saiyan. He walks alone across the freezing expanse, an incredibly tiny figure standing against an impenetrable, heavily fortified mechanical mountain. The automated defenses react instantly. Dozens of highly advanced crystal turrets lock their lethal targeting lasers directly onto his chest.
Knock knock, you crystal freaks! Let's see if your front door is as weak as your pathetic soldiers.
Instead of dodging, he simply raises a single hand. A sphere of pure, hypercondensed golden energy ignites instantly in his palm. With a casual flick of his wrist, he unleashes a devastating golden wave, turning their impenetrable defenses into an absolute joke. The supposedly indestructible steel doors don't just break, they are instantaneously vaporized into molten slag in a fraction of a second. Through the thick smoke and glowing liquid metal, the prince walks calmly inside, having just announced his arrival to the entire fortress. Stepping through the smoldering ruins of the front gate, Vegeta enters the belly of the beast. The air here is thick with stolen energy. At the center of the mechanical nightmare stands the spatial core, violently churning the stolen chakra of countless fallen ninjas. Perched safely on his metal throne, Kaido sneers. The rogue ninja genuinely believes he's holding the ultimate winning hand.
I've harvested your raw data, alien. Behold the absolute pinnacle of multidimensional evolution.
Vegeta doesn't even blink. To him, Kaido is just another loud-mouthed bug who doesn't know he's already dead. Desperate for a reaction, the mad scientist slams his hand onto the console, initiating his ultimate masterpiece of stolen power. The steel floor grinds open. A massive containment pod rises from the depths, radiating an aura that feels disgustingly familiar. Out steps a grotesque imitation. A crystalline clone modeled entirely from the combat data stolen during Vegeta's earlier skirmishes. The abomination drops perfectly into the prince's signature stance. It's a flawless physical copy, running on pure, synthesized energy. A nerve snaps. The sheer audacity to replicate the royal bloodline inside a cheap, soulless rock is the ultimate, unforgivable insult. Kaido laughs, completely oblivious. He thinks he successfully matched a god. He has no idea he just signed his own death warrant. The air pressure in the room suddenly drops. The silence that follows isn't fear, it's the terrifying calm before an absolute cosmic storm.
You dare insult the royal bloodline with this cheap glass toy? I'll show you true power!
He doesn't negotiate. Driven by pure, unadulterated pride, Vegeta unleashes a geyser of golden energy that threatens to tear the fortress apart. The very architecture of the biomechanical layer begins to melt and buckle, completely unable to withstand the insane atmospheric pressure. Gravity itself gives way. Massive chunks of steel and rock float helplessly upward, caught in the devastating gravitational pull of his ascending power. Programmed to eliminate threats, the soulless crystal clone lunges forward, attempting to strike Vegeta before the transformation can fully complete. But it's too late. The prince shatters his limits, ascending instantly to Super Saiyan 2. The air itself screams in absolute agony. Enveloped in an inferno of golden light and chaotic bioelectricity, Vegeta stands as a god of destruction. The ultimate form of Saiyan pride. Vegeta doesn't even throw a punch. The sheer, overwhelming kinetic pressure of his aura expanding acts like an impenetrable, crushing wall of solid steel. The abomination hits the aura and immediately begins to fracture. Its artificial structure simply cannot withstand the gravity of a true Saiyan. Without Vegeta moving a single muscle, the fake is ground into absolute dust. A pathetic imitation, erased by the genuine article. The dust of the destroyed clone blows harmlessly past his face. The insult has been dealt with, but the one who ordered it is still breathing. The entire fortress begins to malfunction. The spatial core, designed to harvest energy, is completely overloading just by being in the same room as him. Up on the catwalk, the illusion of control shatters. Kaido stumbles backward, his arrogant smirk melting into pure, unadulterated panic. The mad scientist finally understands the fatal flaw in his data. You can measure energy, but you can never quantify a Saiyan's wrath. Looking up through the storm of his own making, Vegeta locks eyes with his prey. This isn't a battle anymore, this is an execution. Desperate to survive, Kaido abandons all his grandiose plans. He violently smashes the console, trying to tear open an escape route through dimensions. The overloaded core responds, firing a chaotic, unstable beam of stolen energy straight into the ceiling, desperately trying to rip open a cowardly escape hatch. But there is nowhere in the multiverse left to hide. The Prince of all Saiyans prepares to erase this entire mountain from existence. Completely broken by fear, Kaido abandons his godhood fantasy. He dives into the unstable spatial beam, desperately begging the multiverse for an escape route. But there is no running. Vegeta launches into the sky, shattering the impenetrable steel roof like it's nothing but fragile glass. High above the cursed mountain, the prince spreads his arms. The very atmosphere trembles, suffocated by the sheer, unimaginable weight of his power. Golden energy rapidly condenses in his palms. This isn't just an attack to win a fight, it's an absolute decree of total erasure. Trapped in the collapsing reactor, Kaido looks up. The artificial spatial gate fails as the sky itself seems to turn into a burning sun. The energy reaches critical mass. Vegeta bares his teeth, reveling in the absolute, undeniable superiority of the Saiyan warrior race. Miles away, Naruto and Sasuke can only shield their eyes. They aren't watching a ninja jutsu, they are witnessing a cosmic phenomenon. He brings his hands together, compressing the devastating power of a dying star into the palms of his hands.
Final flash!
The sky splits open. A colossal, roaring wave of pure golden destruction shoots downward, leaving absolutely no room for mercy. The beam strikes the reactor. In less than a fraction of a second, the arrogant scientist is swallowed by the blinding light. He doesn't burn, he is simply erased. Disintegrated at the subatomic level by a power that transcends this dimension. The fortress cannot contain it. The stolen multidimensional energy ignites, causing the entire biomechanical layer to violently detonate. The devastation doesn't stop. The sheer kinetic force of the final flash blows the entire mountain peak completely off the map. A terrifying golden mushroom cloud rises into the heavens, flattening the ancient pine forests for miles in every direction. As the smoke clears, the catastrophic energy overlap tears a stable, glowing rift in the sky, bridging a direct path back to his own universe.
Holy! He didn't just beat the guy, he literally deleted the whole mountain. That is insane.
Hovering before the gateway home, the raging golden inferno fades. The prince powers down, the massacre finally concluded. But before crossing the threshold, Vegeta pauses. He casts one final, piercing look down at the two battered survivors in the snow.
Keep that fire burning, brats. Don't let anyone kill you before I return.
With those final words, he steps into the void. The rift snaps shut, leaving the shinobi alone, forever changed by the pride of a Saiyan.
That Saiyan pride hits totally different. Smash that subscribe button, guys, and drop a comment on who you want to see crossover next.